all, I'd like to welcome you to this planning pre-application briefing. It's 10 o'clock, so we'll start proceedings here. My name is Lam, I'm the planning officer. The housekeeping has been running on the rolling screens. There is no fire alarm planned for today, so if you do hear the fire alarm, which is a constant bell, please congregate at the front of the building and I will collect you. I'd like to remind all of those present of the importance of using the microphones when you're speaking, so that everyone can hear, and also the importance of switching them off again when you finish speaking. The format of the meeting is set out on the agenda, so I will do a brief introduction, the agent will do a presentation, and then members can have questions. Given that it is Remembrance Day, if the meeting is still running, I intend to break before 11 so that people can observe the silence whichever they wish to. There is a principal officer here who will be taking notes of the meeting, and they will be available, although this isn't a formal decision-making process. I would like to say a few words about the application before the agents do their presentation, but I think it would be useful if we could just go around and introduce everyone here. My name is Lam, I'm Principal Planning Officer.
All Accommodation Architects.
Christian Davis from TCT Developments. Justin Bainton from Cox Jonas.
All to introduce themselves with the camera as well, that would be helpful, thank you.
Richard Johnson, Ward Councillor for Abbey.
John Hipkin, I'm a member of the Planning Commission.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce the item. The item is site West Garage, which is at 217 Newmarket Road. It's proposed to redevelop the site for student accommodation. There was in a previous application at the site, which was determined by members in May of this year, and the application was refused for 6 reasons. Since that time, the application has been amended. There is a new team on board, there's a new agent and a new architect, and they have engaged with the council for pre-application discussion. And the purpose of this meeting is to bring members up to date with the issues ahead of the formal planning application being made. Thank you. I'd like to pass over for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm going to do a short introduction and then Paul will do the presentation. We'll run through the scheme in detail. And Christian here will just assist me with question and answers at the end of the meeting. Just very briefly, so by way of an introduction, this latest scheme is for student development comprising 195 student bedrooms on the west side, and it's being promoted by 360 Developments who acquired the site in May 2015. New architects, Accommodation Architects, have been brought on board, and consequently the site's been comprehensively reappraised. From the outset, fellows who specialise in planning communications have been brought on board in terms of the development team in recognition of the importance of community engagement as part of the design process. The proposal is being developed to be subject to some pre-application discussions with local residents, CHS Housing and the Riverside Area Residents Association. And we've undertaken a public exhibition last week, which was attended by 74 persons. We're proposing a follow-up meeting with the Riverside Residents Association later this month. In terms of the programme, we're hoping to submit the application in December. As you're aware, there's a lot of history to the site. The first application was for 257 study bedrooms, and that was withdrawn. This was followed by a second application for about 222 student rooms, which was later reduced to 202 study bedrooms. And that was considered April of this year and was refused in a number of design grounds. Design grounds are actually summarised within the agenda, but very briefly, it was principally to do with the height of massing and relationship to the corner house and public house, the relationship and sense of dominance to the River Lane properties, the impact on the goodness of the road in terms of sense of dominance in terms of design, concerns regarding the sunken courtyards and the amenity provision for future occupants of the scheme, and then 2 more technical refusal reasons relating to requirement for an occupancy restriction for students and need to undertake Section 106 agreements for Section 106 contributions. Paul's going to run you through the scheme right now. Thank you.
Well, as well as looking at the reasons for refusal of the previous scheme, we wanted to look at the site afresh. So the first thing that struck us really was that there are two completely separate contexts. The context of River Lane, which is domestic in scale, and the context of Newmarket Road, which as you know is an extremely busy, more commercial street. There's a kind of third context which on the west and north boundaries, because it's a private domestic rather than a public domestic boundary. So we did analysis of the site and looked at the key factors, and one of them being the change in scale between the two-storey domestic housing on River Lane up to the 5- and 6-storey hotels on Newmarket Road, which are directly opposite the site. One of the key features of the housing really was two-storey houses, pitch roofs, front gardens with an entrance gate on the boundary. So we thought that was quite a good sort of motif for the scheme on River Lane itself. The bottom end of River Lane is slightly different in that it's tree-lined. It's a bit different from the rest of that area. It's quite mature tree planting, obviously as you can see down there leading down to the river, which we thought that would be good to move the tree planting right up to Newmarket Street. And obviously on Newmarket Road the character changes completely with the hotels there and more commercial uses. That's an extract from the planning guidance. The one thing that links these quite different contexts is the material. Cambridge brick and Cambridge cream. Well, we thought from a very early stage that we should stay with that material and allow that to link these two disparate sort of contexts. The other main points that we tried to respond to in terms of developing the design. We thought that the building mass should be split up. This enabled us to respond to the changes in site levels because the site drops. The high point is up here. It drops about 600 to 700 mil, over half a metre anyway, down to the bottom end of the site. And splitting it up allows us to push the building down. It also allows the feel, if you like, of these two blocks to be quite separate, and for the block facing Newmarket Road to be different and respond to that context. We're showing new planting, we're modifying the River Lane itself to provide additional parking. We're also creating build-outs with tree planting so that we can get quite large trees to carry on this tree planting idea right up to the corner. Because part of the, again, planning guidance was that the corner of River Lane and Newmarket is a kind of gateway into the residential area behind the site. Pushing the building back addresses quite a lot of the issues of the previous refusal. One of the problems was this frontage, it being continuous frontage and a bit dominating. Apart from the language that the previous scheme used, it was too close basically to the pavement. So pushing it back allows us to get not only tree planting in the street, but if you like, front gardens to each individual block, and a series of entrance gates along River Lane. The corner treatment there, that's as we mentioned, that's an important part of the design. That's where the scheme makes this transition between domestic scale and feel of these two blocks to a more commercial feel along Newmarket Road. I'll go to the next slide actually. But no, one of the things that developed from the meetings with planners was dropping the scale where it's on the western boundary on the front block. So that drops down to 2 stories now. Previously it was 3. And then the third part of the context is the northern boundary here and the western boundaries, which face local gardens. And this is actually a route through to some garages, which provide parking. We've got at the moment, there's a continuous wall. West Garage has a wall on that boundary. It varies in height. Some of it's flat parapet and some of it has a pitched roof. But it's basically a continuous brick wall. We thought it would be good to, the previous scheme had a block, a two-storey block that followed that boundary. We thought it would be nice really to break that, to let light into these courtyards, but also to break this long brick wall in terms of residents next door. The way we set the scheme out, this is obviously Newmarket Road. So the active frontage, we've got a management suite here, which both addresses the entrance, double height entrance here, and the corner into River Lane. Common room, student common room, which is quite a generous space for the residents, which drops down, so that's a double height space behind, so it opens out into the courtyard. And then the student accommodation is arranged in these blocks served by central cores. Refuse, well, we're in discussion really with the designs for both cycle storage and refuse storage, and that's in development, but obviously that's an important part of the layout. At the moment we've got a large cycle store here and cycle storage spread along these routes to the main entrance doors. That's under development, so we may end up with a more centralised cycle store.
Can you go back on that slide?
Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind. So the corner building has no accommodation whatsoever.
It does above, not the ground floor. No, because it's a really busy, obviously a really busy street here. So at the ground floor, we've just got active use, the offices, the reception, the common room, etc., and cycle storage and bin storage on the back of that block. Above that, there's accommodation, there's residential accommodation. That's a diagram really showing that on the view from Colden's Lane, we wanted to create some sort of visual interest halfway across the block. Previous scheme, I think, came in on that corner. Now we know that corner is important, but we're seeing that more as a place to put the public art, and it's a busy corner. The cyclists go around this corner, pedestrians obviously coming around it, so we pull the building back to create some generosity there, and also to bring tree planting right up to Newmarket Road. And place the entrance, a double height entrance, directly opposite Colden's Lane, to create this visual connection. Another reason for splitting the blocks up was to create more visual interest in the street, in River Lane itself. So apart from letting morning light into these courtyards, there'll be visual permeability as you're walking along the street. You'll see down into those courtyards. Similar to the previous scheme, we've actually dropped the courtyard slightly, and there's accommodation arranged around the courtyards in that way. So that's the staircase down from the main entrance. That's the lower area of the common room, which opens out into this courtyard. And then there's a second courtyard here. The two courtyards we're thinking will be given slightly different treatment. This will be the slightly busier one, opening off the common room, and then the more relaxed, more heavily planted courtyard to the north. That's the ground floor plan. Again, the staircase down, so the very simple, very clear circulation route through to these cores, or you can stay at ground level and come round here and get into these cores, or people can walk down River Lane and enter these, if you like, through the front garden, through those gates on River Lane. That's the cycle store management office in here. The common room at ground level, looking out into Newmarket Road. That obviously all gives some activation, some life to Newmarket Road, and then student accommodation arranged in those two blocks. These are the stores. At the moment they're cycle and refuse stores, but as I said, we might reorganise those. But they'd all be part of the landscaping and have a green roof over the top. We looked at the distances between the proposals, and especially these distances of Goston Road, the windows that look directly facing each other, that's about 50 metres. Yeah, it's about 50. That's about 50 metres, and that's about 40 metres. So there's a good distance, separating distance, where windows face. And then these are gables without any clear glazing. We try to articulate these gables to create again some visual interest, and also to pull these gables back to allow some landscaping to introduce screening, and then again to soften that edge. We looked at shading to both the courtyards and to River Lane, and that shows the shadow path in summer. So as the sun gets round, by 1 o'clock, we've got sunshine in both courtyards, and when the courtyards are going to be in most use will be in the late afternoon, early evening, which is when the courtyards are sunniest really. And we looked at spring solstice. We know there's a particular worry for these residents here. They were concerned about shading. This one shows that it's not, I think about 5 or 6 o'clock, the shadows start to get a bit long. Yeah, so actually 6. But more or less everybody's in shadow at that time of the year. Yeah. I guess a typical layout. So we arranged the student flats in clusters of 4, 5 and 6 bedrooms. It's a fairly standard arrangement with a common kitchen, living room here. Previously we again had some 8-bed flats, which ended up with a very long corridor. These are reasonably long, but the good thing about splitting the building up into 3 is that quite a lot of flats have very short corridors. So that 4-bed flat, for example, has quite a short corridor, and this one, that's 5-bed. That's a short corridor, and it's glazed at the end, so we get natural light. So some of the flats, quite a lot of the flats work very well. The plan here is serrated to angle the view out of these rooms away from the garden of that house on River Lane. And these bedrooms are, again, the previous scheme was criticised for very narrow bedrooms. We've got a minimum of 2.6 width on these bedrooms. There are 2 main types. This one works very well. It's a more square format. It's 3.4 by 4 meters. And this one is 2.6 wide. So we found that to work very well in the previous schemes. So as we go up to level 2, the building starts to pull back to reduce the scale to the western boundary. So at this stage, there's no accommodation at this level on these 2 blocks. The most northern block is effectively 2-storey around here with some room in the roof. This block is going to be 3-storey with, in fact, there's some room in the roof. And this one is 3-storey again with some room in the roof. That's the roof. 2 sections through the courtyards. We've done a lot of work with local residents on the treatment of this retaining wall. We think we've found an answer really that we hope suits everybody in terms both of security from the courtyard and for tree planting and screening. Also, we looked carefully at a comparison between the previous scheme elevation treatments and ours. The previous scheme tried to break the massing down, but it stayed at one level, so it ended up higher than it needed to be at the north end of the site. splitting ours, it pulls these heights down, and obviously these are pitched roofs, so the effective height is 2-storey, similar to the houses next door, and only steps up as we get towards Newmarket Street. So this is a walk through. We're walking up that's Beach Road, and we're walking up River Lane towards Newmarket Street. So you see the context of the proposals at the north end. That's that kind of close to the quick map. 2 stories on the northernmost block. We pop these dormers up to break the roof line, similar to the way that the chimneys in the existing houses to the north break their roof lines. And these are the breaks between the blocks. We're doing these views, verified views at key points, which is what the still images are showing. So this is showing the context, the tree plantings to River Lane, the green boundary separating the buildings from the pavement. And this is the proposed corner treatment. We need to do a lot more work yet on the proposals for landscaping on that corner, but that's in development. And then the Newmarket Road elevation, we've split the building basically. We've dropped it down to 2 stories there, and we've split it here and tried to create a really strong and legible entrance in the centre of the building. And this is a walkthrough starting on Holden's Lane, walking up towards Newmarket Street. So that's existing and proposed. So existing and proposed. The main entrance is double heights with the management office here, reception effectively. But there are views from the street all the way through into the courtyard, which we think works very well. That's a bridge across the top of the first floor level, linking the residential accommodation with the circulation to the left. The lift is on your left there. So this is taking us down to the first landscaped courtyard. And then you see the proposals for the boundary. That's a retaining wall that will be heavily greened with hedging and a planting boundary. So these gaps between the building allow light into these courtyards in the morning, and that works quite effectively. So we're going through now into the northern courtyard, slightly different feel, a bit more soft landscaping, but it's similar in principle. So these are 3-story in the courtyard. To the Godstone Gardens, they're going to be 2-story. Taking us back up to ground level on River Lane. And then final walkthrough takes us down Rollington Way and looks at the views from Godstone Road Gardens. So that's the relationship between our northernmost block and the adjacent house. These are two retained cherry trees. They're actually outside our site, so we're proposing to protect those during the work, and they'll be retained. And they're the angled windows preventing direct views into the garden, next door garden. There's a view from Beach Road, existing and proposed, and a view from the garages, existing and proposed. Then hopping over the garages, I'm walking through the gardens. We're looking east. So they're the gables, courtyards, obviously in between, and screen planting. Some of these trees are existing, large sycamores existing, and some of the trees, obviously trees behind the boundary are new trees, planted at around 6 metres from the outside and growing to about 9 metres. That's the existing view and proposed. And that's just the view from Newmarket Road. And that's where we are so far in terms of the design of the building. So, can we see this on?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sure. Thank you, Paul. I just wanted to mention just a few other considerations, just by way of background information. The site is not identified as protected employment in the adopted local plan, and is therefore a windfall site. Policy 710, which most people will be familiar with, outlines that development of speculative purpose-built hostels, student accommodation will be permitted if occupancy restrictions exist to ensure accommodation is only available to full-time students attending ARU or the University of Cambridge. The schemes for cost of accommodation and Anglia Ruskin have been consulted, and they have confirmed to us that, and this is a quote, developers consulted us to take on board our comments and advice. The scheme compares favourably with other recent development schemes here in Cambridge and elsewhere. The applicant is committed to providing Section 106 agreement, which will ensure that the use restrictions, which are pretty standard, are imposed as part of this scheme. But the intention at this stage is for ARU to be the occupied development. The scheme has been considered at the Design and Conservation Panel at its pre-application stage. The emerging scheme was presented and it received a 6 amber and 2 greens, with the panel commenting this scheme has improved significantly from its previous iterations. The 3-block arrangement with improved permeability and level changes are welcome, and the end gables facing Goodson Road. The panel felt the process of design development needs to continue to ensure that this is a really strong scheme for this important site. So this was obviously a month or so ago, the progress has been taken forward to take on board the detailed comments. And in terms of management, 360 Developments launched a student housing company to manage purpose-built student accommodation in the UK. Each of the applicants' buildings are currently run by a local-based manager. Based on the site, there will be a designated community contact for the wider community should there be any issues or complaints, and we'll be happy to encourage feedback from local residents within the community. The site will be managed 24 hours a day with a secure entry system and CCTV throughout. We'll be submitting a comprehensive management plan as part of the application submission. Just in terms of transport, a number of points really. It's been noted, the proposal includes the creation of 8 parking bays separated by tree planting by moving the carriageway curb line onto River Lane. River Lane falls within the city controlled parking zone, CBZ, and so the bays fronting the site, both existing and proposed, are controlled by a residents' parking zone system. The car parking spaces will not be allocated to students, and applicants to the scheme will not, through their tenancy agreement, be allowed to be permitted to run a car. Agreement has been reached with the county to suspend parking in the payment displays and river lanes to facilitate loading and unloading at the start and end of term. The management company will, under the terms of the student management plan, ensure that arrivals and departures at the start of and end of term are strictly controlled and managed. The proposed development will decrease the vehicles' movements compared to the existing use and result in removal of transport from the Newmarket Road frontage, which used to cause significant issues. The applicant is currently discussing with the county the provision of a cycle lane on the frontage, which helps users of the development come off Newmarket Road when turning left down River Lane. And the access officer has requested that 2 disabled spaces are allocated on the side frontage, and again we're discussing that with the county. We're also proposing an advanced stop lane for cyclists from River Lane, assisting with the access onto the Newmarket Road, and a travel out plan will be provided as part of the scheme. I think that's the end of our presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Justin. That concludes the presentation by the agent. I'd like to open up for members if they have any questions.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for the presentation, and it was very informative and very comprehensive. And without doubt, there has been a lot of work done in terms of improving the concept of the proposal, which compared at least to the previous proposal. But I do have 2 questions, and one I think is exercising some resistance, and that is why there hasn't been still an attempt to meet the aspiration set out in the Eastern Gate SPD to green the north side of Newmarket Road, and as a consequence set back the proposed structure to enable this. And my second question is, I'm sorry if you already covered this in your presentation, but I just wanted to get some confirmation that the rear windows on the western side, western end of the Newmarket Road section will not overlook the rear gardens of the eastern side of Goston Road. Thank you.
Yeah, on the windows, that's the easy one. There's no overlooking at all. If there is any glazing, it will be translucent. If there's strong objections to that, that's more or less to let some light, some evening light into those rooms or those corridors. If that's a problem, we could omit those. In terms of greening the Newmarket Road, we would like to do that, and we're carrying out surface scans to see what the services are like in the street. But it's difficult in terms of space. Something we've looked at is possibly putting some planting above ground and planters, but it's a difficult one with the city. I'm not sure the landscape department are that keen on that approach. So it's something we have thought about. 2 things are we're tight on space, and we need it to work in terms of the long-term maintenance. But we agree that it would be nice to green that side of the scheme, if we can make it work.
Yeah, I think the other thing to mention is obviously the greening of the Newmarket Road was a big issue as part of the Travelodge scheme, but I think the Eastern Gate Vision document didn't propose the same sort of treatment on the side of the scheme side which we're dealing with. We did have some comments from the Design and Conservation panel, and I think their view was that the worst solution would be to have a half-hearted approach, which was neither one thing nor another, and actually they expressed a degree of caution in terms of trying to have something which really wasn't appropriate. So when we're still reviewing this, but it's something we're looking at, but I think Newmarket Road is quite a hostile environment, and it's quite a difficult location to look at planetary planting.
I do appreciate that, but the premise of the question was why you say that the space is tight, but of course there's an opportunity to set back the building to enable additional frontage for greening and trees. So why can you just confirm why that hasn't been explored? Is that because you're so keen to ensure that the number of studios, number of bedrooms, continues to make the scheme viable?
We are. There's a lot going on the frontage, and we're looking at opportunities for the county to actually provide a cycleway which will help students move from off Newmarket Road down River Lane. So you've got the issue to do with having a cycleway, you've got the issue to do with having a decent pedestrian footpath as well. We're obviously looking at actually making a slight adjustment to the building line to actually help accommodate this already. So there's a lot of tensions going on, and there's obviously going to be a lot of movements in terms of the frontage as well. So probably the honest answer is we obviously also need to provide as much accommodation as we practically can in terms of making the scheme viable. And actually that's something which is always said in all these meetings, but it is a reality as well. So we're trying to weigh up various issues and come up with a sort of suitable scheme.
Any other councillors have any comments or questions? Councillor Spark.
Thank you. I think one of the most important of the boundaries, as it were, is the River Lane one, because with it fronting onto the smaller houses there. Yeah, I like the way in which it's been broken up. There is always a problem, a tension between security and what's the right word? Getting through it, and also the next question of where people put their bikes, because if there isn't convenient bike storage on their route, chances are they'll have inconvenient storage also on their route. So I just wondered if you'd like to expand further on what your thinking is, particularly on the River Lane frontage, because it did look to me for a bit at one point that you've got all the refuse and all the bikes and all the clutter on that frontage, which is possibly, well, it's an important frontage because it's facing people's houses, the fronts of people's houses, rather than the backs, which are the other two, as it were.
Yeah, we had this discussion yesterday with the site officer. It was interesting, actually. The proposal really is that what we try to do to a certain extent is to bring pedestrians in through the main entrance and to have cyclists come around here and use this. That's the most obvious and easiest way for cyclists to come in, is through a gate here and directly into the cycle store. The scheme we showed to the cycling officer was it spread the cycling along this route. She questioned that, actually. She thought that if you're on a bike, you come right through to here, see all these spaces used, and then just dump your bike, which is exactly what you're saying. So that's why we're looking at it again and concentrating bicycle parking here along that wall. That's mainly visitor. In fact, as she said though, they'll be the spaces that are used first because they're the easiest. And then the other cycle parking, it's enclosed, it's behind the door, although that could be left open all day, effectively. So we'll make that as easy to use as possible. So when you come in here, straight into the cycle store, and then you walk to the front door. Yeah, the last thing we want to do is to have bikes strewn along that route.
Yeah, that was my fear. That you've got bikes strewn along, you've got rubbish bins strewn along, and it just wasn't an attractive frontage for the people on the other side of the road to look at.
Yes, that's right. There'll be the proposal is that there'll be a low brick wall here and then a hedge, so that will be up to kind of shoulder height anyway. So low level clutter will be
Concealed.
Yeah, I wouldn't the other thing is it's a management thing. So attempt at least to keep control of that. Although occasionally there will be some clutter, but most of that will not be visible. But it was an interesting meeting, and we're going to amend the scheme on the basis of that.
My question is about occupancy, and I'm afraid it's to you. In another scheme in another part of the city, residents sat in this room less than 6 months ago and heard that occupancy would be confined to students attending the University of Cambridge. And the marketing company that is selling the student units is assuring potential buyers that these stipulations will not endure and that they have their time limit, and the emerging local plan is going to be much more flexible in this respect. Can you explain to us definitively what the position is?
The position is that when an application comes in, it will be assessed against the current local plan. So the occupancy requirements will be as in the 2006 local plan. There is an argument that there are more flexible stipulations coming forward, but those have not been tested at the public inquiry. Should that come forward, it may be that people would want to seek to vary that. They would need to either seek to vary formally the Section 106 and any conditions attached to the planning permission at that time, and we would have to wait to material consideration of the local plan. But the position currently is that the occupancy will be as set out in the 2006 local plan. That would be the requirement for any application that comes forward prior to the revised local plan coming forward.
So the condition confining occupancy to the two universities is extremely unreliable, in that it could easily be dispensed with.
Potentially, I mean, it's not unreliable if once it's imposed, we would have to, the applicants would have to comply with it. We could check it from an enforcement point of view, we could look at the occupancy and we could enforce against that. But if there were circumstances where the application were to seek to be varied, I couldn't say whether it would be allowed or not. We would have to see what happened with the emerging local plan at that time and whether it were adopted. But the conditions would be imposed on the basis of the current local plan.
And would you be kind enough to, if variations will be more synthetically looked at in terms of occupancy, would you care to define a student so that we know what we're dealing with, the market potential?
Well, it depends. Again, at the moment, the local plan is very restrictive in that it refers to university students of two specific organisations. So they are clearly undergraduate students, they're not sixth form students or anything like that. But a student could be a sixth form college in the broader sense. But again, I think we are talking about a policy that hasn't been adopted yet and wouldn't be given weight in the determination of the application. Obviously, if an application to vary the Section 106 or the condition came forward, that would be subject to the usual consultations, and we would look at the position at the time. And obviously, material considerations would be what happened across the city as well, with other schemes that have come forward should that happen.
So can you envisage a situation in which people would be perfectly entitled to formally register as a student to some so-called educational establishment and purchase or occupy these premises with only that formal attribution?
I can't really speculate about what may or may not happen with the local plan. Obviously, there would need to be some guidance about what the authority would be regarded as a student, and because we're not at that point yet with the local plan and with the moving forward, we can't. I think it's unlikely that there would be a tertiary registration and then that would entitle you to occupy student accommodation, but I can't say what those criteria would be at the moment. And I know that's an uncomfortable position, but we don't know what the outcome of the local plan is going to be at this stage. If other members have any comments or questions, I'd like to
Thank you, Chair. Just a general question really about the character of Newmarket Road, and I remember sitting in this committee room a couple of months ago, outlining why I objected to the previous application for this site, and it was because the frontage facing Newmarket Road and the story height really had more in keeping with the opposite side of Newmarket Road, the hotels and the other developments, rather than the side of Newmarket Road where the development was going to sit with the residential housing and all the rest of that. So I just wondered if you can state why you believe that this new proposal is more in keeping with the present character of that side of Newmarket Road and the other side of Newmarket Road.
I think what we're trying to do really is to link the two contexts because they're so different, and that's what makes it, if you like, an interesting design challenge. But the context of Newmarket Road is massively different to River Lane, so it was finding some way of comfortably linking those two contexts and forming, especially on that corner, a transition between those two contexts. That's the crux of the scheme, exactly as you're saying. But we thought it was quite important that, We know that there were small-scale domestic houses on Newmarket, or there still are, but they feel almost quite uncomfortable. I certainly wouldn't want to live in them. And Newmarket Road, the character of Newmarket Road has changed, obviously, over time, entirely. So it was trying to make that link between that new character and existing character of the housing to the north of the site. In some respects, maybe ultimately, there will be almost barrier developments along Newmarket to protect the domestic housing to the north. That might be quite a good approach, with a series of entrance or gateway points, which is kind of what the planning guidelines hint at, and that's what we're sort of trying to follow and to develop.
But I thought Richard Johnson's point was that the Newmarket Road doesn't have a single character, it has a dual character, and he's making a contrast between the hotel side of the road and the domestic scale, where whether you would like to live in those houses or not is immaterial. The fact is that the scale is domestic. And it sounds to me as if what you're saying is we are going to lay down the sort of building at this corner site that will probably ordain the nature of any subsequent development along that stretch of road. So we have opted for the heavy development rather than the domestic. I mean, is that a fair assessment?
I wouldn't describe it as a heavy development. There's this 3-story. It's a transition between this 5- and 6-story hotel development opposite, down to the 2-story residential to the north. So it's a transition of 3 stories with it. I wouldn't describe that as a heavy approach. This sort of similar in scale, say, to the church further down Newmarket Road. No, not a heavy development. No, it's a transition.
Okay, do members have any other questions or comments you'd like to make? Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank everyone for attending. This brings the discussion to a close. I'd just like to summarise what I think are the key points that are risen out of the discussion. Remember, the key issues with us even are the gardens and the overlooking to the rear of the site, the treatment of Newmarket Road concerning the greening and planting, and whether the building could be set back to enable further planting, the scale of the building on Newmarket Road and when that's actually appropriate, and overlaying the boundary treatments and getting the balance right between the security and the access, and also the bike and bin storage treatment on River Lane, and the occupancy of the accommodation and how that would be controlled in the longer term. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.